All right, well, the two of you took part in a study. You carried it out in Nairobi at the Kenyatta National Hospital. Can you tell me about the logistics of the study?
Oh, wow. It was not easy to set up. It started with our he's a former PhD student of ours. He's now a consultant in obstetrics and gynecology at Nairobi, at Kenyatta. A guy called Dr. Innocent Aurora Maranga. And basically, we wrote a clinical trial with him and submitted it to Kenyatta National Hospital Ethics Board. With a variety of conditions, it was approved. So that was the first hurdle we had to overcome. We then had to obtain funding, equipment, consumables, which was a massive headache. Because the problem is, for us to do the trial, we needed a formulation, because what we were planning to do was use a drug which is normally given orally to treat HIV, but we wanted to apply this directly to the cervix, because we need a much higher concentration of the drug to work against papillomavirus than you can obtain by taking the drug orally. So ideally we needed a reformulation, but this would have been very expensive, and nobody would do the reformulation without the clinical data, and we couldn't get the clinical data without the reformulation.
Wow.
It's a classic catch-22, circular argument. So through discussions between myself, Lynn and Aurora, we decided that we would use the normal orally available form of the drug, which was a soft gelatin capsule, and we would use this as a pessary to apply it directly to the cervix. That's what we put forward to the ethics board, and it was approved.
And there's additional things you have to think about when you're carrying out a clinical trial over in somewhere like Kenya. We had to consider travel costs for the women, because they can't generally afford to get themselves to and from the hospital. We had to think about so many things that you wouldn't consider if you were in the UK. So we had to make sure there was funds available, that if we found any women who already had cervical cancer, we could get those women treated immediately. So that cost had to be factored in. We decided to keep the scientific part of the study in the UK. So of course there were then transport costs for the samples to come from Kenya to the UK to be tested. So lots of extra things. So not as easy as you might think, but we did it.
Yeah.
We pulled it together.
Kenyatta also insisted that we had to provide a lot of free medical tests for these ladies, because, you know, there has to be an upside for the patient in this. And, you know, we had to do a whole range of clinical tests, including a HIV test. And at the end of the day, we had to provide free cervical smear testing and papillomavirus testing for over 800 women. And during the course of that study, we actually picked up 5 women who already had invasive cancer, and they were immediately referred to surgery. And so it felt actually great, because we probably saved their lives just by doing the trial, which I think is, well, it makes us feel very good.
Well, that sounds amazing. It seems like you overcame a lot of hurdles and really helped these women in ways that they maybe would never have gotten if it wasn't for the two of you. I want to touch on the actual drug. You said it was originally used for the treatment of HIV. Where's the connection? How did you take this drug and bring it over to HPV?
Wow.
Do you want to take that one?
That's not an easy question to answer, because it came about through work that Lynn did, and, you know, in the laboratory, and a lot of very, very intense scientific discussions. There's a lot of very heavy molecular virology.
I mean, to try and put it simply, we were trying to look at what things within a human cell the virus targeted when it infected the cells. So that was my work. We found several novel things that had not been published. One of the things we found the virus was interacting with led us to look at certain pathways in the cell, and we thought, hang on a minute, HIV protease inhibitors can target these pathways. This could be a good therapy. So in the lab we started to do studies with cervical cancer cells grown in lab cultures, and we could show that this drug could actually cause those cells to begin to die, whereas otherwise they would not have done. So that was sort of this, very, very simplistically put, that's what started us on the path.
And the other interesting thing was that normal cells that weren't actually infected with the papillomavirus, they actually grew better in the drug.
Yeah, they weren't affected by it at all.
So we thought, this is great. This is great. So that was the kind of, if you like, laboratory side of things. But of course, getting it into the clinic, as I said, was a massive problem. It really was. And we've had so many people have helped us to do this. There's a benefactor, a philanthropist, Mr. Ken Chollerton, from the UK. He's an amazing man. He's built schools, hospitals, trained clinical staff all over Africa, and he provided us with funds that were used to pay for the treatment costs at Kenyatta. And the American company Hologic, they donated. They gave us free use of and consumables amounting to nearly £250,000.
Which is very unusual for a company. I mean, most of them you'd think, oh, talk to these big companies and they don't want to know, but they did it, no strings attached. They didn't want anything for it. It was just, we want to help out. And then we had a small charity, the Caring Cancer Trust. They came in and gave money. We couldn't have done it without all those people making those contributions. They were all absolutely key.
There's a whole list of charities, small charities here in the UK that have funded our work, and we're absolutely indebted to them. I mean, we couldn't have set this up or done it without them. That's absolutely clear.